Welcome back to our YouTube channel, ladies and gentlemen. If you thought that the country is under siege and maybe we are on a crisis mode and maybe the priority of William Ruto is to try and solve problems that are bedeviling us, like doctors are on strike, people are dying on the roads, like we are just getting news that an easy coach bus that was carrying students from Chabakali boys got an accident and some of them are feared dead. And you thought that was a priority to William Ruto. No, that is not. If you thought that the fake fertilizer is a priority to William Ruto and the UDA government, that is not. They have other things in mind that will shock you. Now, if you look at the Daily Nation, there is a headline that has shocked many. At a time when we thought that they would choose their priorities, we are told why the controller of budget, Margaret Nyakang'o, stay in office is under threat. And apparently, there is a person who has sponsored a bill and is seeking for the removal and ouster from office of the controller of budget. This guy calls himself, or his name is Bernard Mushere, and is a fraud risk management consultant. And he has accused Margaret Nyakang'o of failing in her duties to oversee the implementation of the budget of the National Assembly. And so he has petitioned Parliament to look at her prayers so that Margaret Nyakang'o should be removed from office. Now, I think the only other person who saw this headline is Cyprian Nyakundi. On her Twitter handle, Cyprian is saying a petitioner has filed for the removal of control of budget Margaret Nyakang'o for allegedly failing to ensure prudent oversight of the 2023-2024 national budget implementation in her report. Ladies and gentlemen, what do you think is happening? And I want to take you straight to what is happening. I want us to look at one of the headlines that was aired, and this was on February 20th. And it was saying control of budget flags irregular Kenya shillings 51 billion spending by government on vehicles, state house renovation. And then it goes ahead to say that the control of budget, Dr. Margaret Nyakang'o, is questioning how the government spent 51 billion Kenya shillings in 6 months without approval from her office and the National Assembly. Dr. Nyakang'o, in her report on government spending over the first half of this financial year, indicates that the government exploited a legal loophole to spend more than the legally permissible additional funds. The report shows that working under the cover of Article 223 of the Constitution that allows ministries, departments, and agencies to access additional funding if the amount appropriated is insufficient or if a need has arisen, the government used a whopping 51 Kenya shillings billion over 6 months on expenses, some of which were not emergencies. I'm submitting to you that one of the reasons why the government wants Nyakang'o out is this. She keeps on exposing, like this one, they took an advantage of a loophole in the Constitution which allows them to withdraw some cash if the money that was appropriated to them is insufficient, and they went ahead and withdrew a whopping 51 billion Kenya shillings, and they used it in some areas that Margaret Nyakang'o feels these are not emergencies, because the Constitution requires that you only withdraw if there is an emergency. Let's go back, because I just want to build a picture to you. State House hit as budget controller rejects 47 billion cash requests. That is Margaret Nyakang'o, the person we are told failed to exercise her duty. And it was said what you need to know is that among requests that were not approved included one by the State House in July to spend 400 million Kenya shillings to purchase vehicles. And the controller of budget also declined requests by 4 state agencies for cash to settle pending bills totaling to 12.6 billion. Now, let's just build a picture here. It says the controller of budget rejected requests by the State House, 18 ministries and state agencies to spend more than 47 Kenya shillings billion under an emergency clause in the 6 months ended December, approving only 3.29 billion of the 51 billion requested without MP's approval. Look at that. State House requested for over 47 billion Kenya shillings. And then Margaret Nyakang'o decides to approve only 3.29 billion Kenya shillings. If you ask me, this is a person who is trying to guard and protect the Kenyan interest. And you remember that after exposing William Ruto and how the government was overspending, the corruption and wastage in the government, sometimes back they tried removing her through the courts, and they revived a certain case that was backdated way in, I don't know, 2015 or something, and it backlashed because it backfired. Kenyans decided to rally behind her, and the most fortunate thing that happened is that the members of the Kisii community, the leaders, people like Osoro or Ruoba, from across the divide, decided to rally behind her because they did not understand why the government was targeting Dr. Margaret Nyakang'o. Dr. Margaret Nyakang'o has been a thorn in the flesh to the Ruto government, denying them money, exposing what they are doing. Now, if you just read what I've just given you, it just paints a picture for you that the reason why they are deciding now to move away from the court because it failed to parliament is because they have the numbers. And this time round, I think they want to try and use their numbers. I don't know what is going to happen when leaders from Kisii the other time rallied behind her. And there was great division. People like Osoro and Robo were saying that William Ruto does not know who is doing this. In fact, he was outside the country. And they were trying to defend that William Ruto, cares about the Kisii community, the sons and daughters of Omogusi. And so there were some people in the government that were waiting for William Ruto when he's away, and they try to intimidate Margaret. But those, the Kisii leaders who are members of the Azimio said this is William Ruto's hand because Dr. Margaret Nyakang'o is exposing State House, exposing the government, and so they felt that people like Oroba should not try and hoodwink Kenyans. This is William Samoei Ruto. So this time around, if this is taken to parliament, I don't know what is going to happen. Because the other time, when they sponsored a bill, the Finance Bill 2023, they were threatened and they were told, you must vote for it, you must pass it. I know the members of Azimio will not vote to kick her out. But if you add the members of Azimio and the very few from Kisii, they will still be overpowered. If the government is hell-bent on removing Dr. Nyakang'o, they will succeed. Numbers don't lie, and William Ruto has bought and compromised quite a number. And I think this is exactly what they want to do. After removing Margaret Nyakang'o, they will put one of their own, someone who will, try and hide all the mess, will cover all the mess in the government. Someone who will approve everything. If William Ruto wants 100 million, immediately they will give out. If William Ruto wants money that is not emergency, they will approve. That is exactly what they want. The other time State House were to go under renovation, and there was a certain kind of money that Dr. Nyakang'o refused because that was just too much. These are the kind of things that the government wants. Someone who dance to their tune, because Nyakang'o has simply refused to dance to their tune. She's there protecting the interest of Kenyans. But you see, when the government is hell-bent in doing something, they will definitely succeed. And then it beholds one to wonder. In a situation where we have bigger fishes to fry, the fertilizer thing has not ended and Kenyans are crying foul. Doctors are on strike. People are dying. The capitation fee is still not reaching all the schools in time. Yet, instead of looking at the problems that we are going through to try and resolve them, they are looking for more problems. They just want to plunge the country into a crisis. You can imagine all the headlines about the fertilizer and deaths. And then here is Margaret Nyakang'o. And they are going to discuss this. I don't think this guy calling himself Bernard Mushere simply woke up and decided that, I want Margaret Nyakang'o out. When everybody thought that the war between William Ruto and Nyakang'o had ended, it means that there's someone who sits there in State House and they will ensure that all their enemies are dealt with. The control of budget, Auditor General are two people who I believe must go because we have a government that is corrupt and they want people who will help them perpetuate the corruption. Rigathi Gachagua once said, and just recently told the members, the leaders from Rift Valley, that they fought tooth and nail for this government, and hii ndio wakati wa kunyonya. And he was telling them, wacheni kupigia rais kelele, tulieni, kuleni. I think everyone will be disappointed by this headline when they wake up. This is not the time to start looking for who to bury, who to charge politically. It's wrong. And Margaret Nyakang'o must stay strong. Kenyans are behind her. The court way has failed. Now they are trying their numbers. I don't know whether this time round it is going to succeed because I know there are sober leaders who might just decide that no, we are not going to crucify Nyakang'o. And you will see, maybe this is sponsored just to try and they're looking at opinions of people and see what will happen. When they realize that this is going to backfire, you will see people like maybe Rigathi Gachagua, William Ruto saying that they are protecting Nyakang'o. They don't want someone who sponsors a bill to remove her from office, but we simply wait and see because this is not an independent minded case. This person has been sponsored, and there is someone who wants Nyakang'o out of that office already. People like Kimani Chungwa had said that Nyakang'o should be kicked out because she is a stumbling block. In fact, they have been using a case in which she authorized some withdrawals in the Uhuru government where she was compelled by Ukuri Atani. And they're saying that she should have stood firm not to authorize such withdrawals. And the EACC, Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, had already recommended charges against her. And you know what that means. I've always told you that all the independent institutions are not independent. There is state capture. They are working to please their master, the executive William Ruto himself. Whether it is the EACC, the DCI, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, the courts, all of them have been captured. And if you are independent, you are transferred. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we wait and see the developments because they are determined to ensure that she's kicked out. That's my take.